Hello everyone, please press subscribe, press follow, press the bell so you don't miss any new clips. The Divine Nine Dragon Cauldron. Author by Heavenly Overlord. Translator by Xuanhuan Studio. Audio novels by Novelist. The Divine Nine Dragon Cauldron. Chapter 61. Du Yuntian's body flew backwards and landed on the floor outside the arena with a heavy thud. Ding King looked over. Du Yuntian's arms were burned to smithereens, the ligaments were only connected by a layer of skin. His chest was bloody, his beating heart barely visible. Every part of his body was covered in blood, his chest barely rose with breath. Du Yuntian's life was in danger. Su Yu had nearly killed Du Yuntian with only one punch. Just how scary were Su Yu's abilities, now that he had broken through to the next level? The expression of the 13 inspectors changed. Their eyes flashed with caution. Thunder flare. The purple flames were not fire but residual heat created by concentrated thunderbolts, also known as thunder flares. Their power was even mightier than that of thunderbolts. What sort of saint-level technique is able to harness thunder flares? But it was not the time to admire the thunder flares. Du Yuntian's life was in danger. He had been beaten within an inch of his life. The fiery minister would not be let this incident slide so easily. As predicted, the fiery minister had a merciless look on his face. Flames of anger shot out of his eyes as he kept his murderous fury in check. Even if Du Yuntian could be saved, he would be crippled. His arms would never regenerate. Du Yuntian was destined to be useless. The fiery minister's majestic aura blanketed the surroundings. The boundless flames rippled in the air. Loud as angry thunderbolts, his aura struck the hearts of everyone present like a heavy hammer. Insolence, murderer. To think you would deal such a sinister load during the holy meet. I, as the minister of the sanctuary, remove your right to participate in the meet. The declaration came just as Su Yu's victory was secured, making him the otherwise undisputed king of the holy meet. Anyone on his level, in his generation, could not contest him. But the cancellation of his right to participate by the fiery minister had caused his attainment of the crown to become moot. While the audience was fearful, they were also angry. They understood a great injustice had just been done to Su Yu. Du Yuntian had come at Su Yu with the intent to kill in every stroke, along with trying sneak attacks at every opportunity. Why had the fiery minister not stopped him? Only now, when Du Yuntian had been mortally wounded by Su Yu, did the fiery minister decide to punish Su Yu. Where was the justice? The clean, just image of the sanctuary faded in the hearts of many martial artists. Su Yu had not looked at the fiery minister. He slowly made his way down the arena without turning his head. His voice was hoarse, cold, and pitiful. The Duke is dead. The Holy Crown means nothing to me now. The Duke was already dead. What was the point of obtaining the Holy Crown? There was only one thing left he needed to do. Su Yu needed to kill the first prince. Quick, protect me. The first prince wore a look of fear as an unspeakable terror welled up within him. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 3 guards of level 3 lower tier of the martial paths covered the first prince as he hurriedly made his way down the arena, their expressions grave. The first prince felt regret. Had he known that he would agitate Su Yu to the point of a breakthrough, he would definitely not have attempted to execute the Duke of Xuanhuan. To be honest, he had been wrong to target the Duke of Xuanhuan at all. He had originally been in a good position to become a monarch and rule the land. He could have controlled 1,000,000 acres. But he had become overambitious and, in framaning the Duke, had destroyed everything. Su Yu advanced slowly, his eyes blood-red, as he stared straight at the first prince, who was fearfully hiding behind the guards. Diabolic sword. Kill. Ah! The guard in front, who blocked the first prince, shut his eyes, his body contorted as he died painfully. A person of level 6 lower tier of the martial paths in the holy meet, such as that guard, was easily of equal power to a top 10 demon student. But a gaze from Su Yu had killed such a person with ease. Quick, protect me. The first prince howled angrily, fearful for his life. Scary. Too scary. The Su Yu now was terrifying. As long as the first prince could escape back to the palace, he would assemble the empire's best and destroy Su Yu with every possible weapon and warrior at his disposal. No one can save you. Su Yu's voice was hoarse. It was merciless and brought chills to those who heard it. Diabolic sword. Kill. The second guard dropped dead. Diabolic sword. Kill. The third guard dropped dead. In the blink of an eye, 3 level 6 guards were brutally murdered. All that was left was the first prince, who fearfully retreated. The scene was strikingly similar to their previous confrontation in the Xuanhuan prefecture. Green-robed guards fell one by one to Su Yu's diabolic sword, until even the second royal prince was executed. The influential first prince now faced the same fate. The fiery minister was livid. Su Yu had crippled his disciple, disregarded his punishment, and had now killed in his presence. Did he have no regard for the minister of the sanctuary? You all deserve death. Why have you all not attacked him yet? The fiery minister angrily slammed his hand on the table, his expression merciless. But the 12 inspectors hesitated. Some stroked their noses, others looked around, but no one attacked. It was clear that the fiery minister's actions had displeased the inspectors. Did the minister believe he had the right to disregard Du Yuntian's clearly murderous actions, simply because he was his disciple? Then, after ignoring such obvious offenses, suddenly punish Su Yu for a similar crime? The 12 inspectors felt the angry stares of countless members of the audience. The reputation of the sanctuary had been ruined by the fiery minister. There was one inspector amongst them, however, who attacked without hesitation. Whoosh! Each of the inspectors were at least level 7, their abilities were no laughing matter. The attacking inspector was fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, a tall figure appeared in front of the first prince. Fang Yun. Fang Yun of the Xuanhuan Prefecture Martial Arts Training Institute. His eyes sought justice. Insolence. Murderer. You killed in the presence of many. I, as an inspector, have to get rid of you. Fang Yun scolded. In truth, Fang Yun had other motives for killing Su Yu. He could not let the people of the sanctuary know that it was him who had chased Su Yu out of the Martial Arts Training Institute, or he would definitely face punishment. Also, it was not guaranteed that Su Yu would not seek revenge on him in the future. It was better to use this opportunity to kill him now, just as he had tried to in the arena of the Golden Assessment back in the Martial Arts Training Institute. PSSH. Fang Yun's strike was decisive. A stream of vital energy gathered at his fingertip, sharp and piercing, as he attempted to pierce a hole through Su Yu. A level 7 could kill a level 5 with a flick of his finger. The power of the vital energy was immense. Under normal circumstances, even people at the peak of level 6 have simply accepted their fate. But Su Yu's blood-red eyes were oddly calm. He had remembered this attack, this image of Fang Yun. The Duke of Xuanhuan had saved him back then when Fang Yun had tried to kill him with his vital energy. Su Yu was overcome with a sense of déjà vu. Today, that scene was reenacted. The Duke was dead, though, and Su Yu was much, much stronger. Those who block me shall die. There was no light in Su Yu's eyes. Purple flames danced on his fists as he struck outward. Rumble. Crash. Ah! Thud, thud, thud. Fang Yun let out a groan and retreated. His finger was in great pain. A purple flame burned on his fingertips. Poof! Hurriedly, Fang Yun transferred vital energy to extinguish the remnants of the thunder flare. What a powerful thunder flare! The rest of the 12 inspectors were secretly shocked. Fang Yun was utterly shocked. Since when had Su Yu been able to match his blows? In the past he was but an ant, a simple student. You stubbornly resist. A heavier crime. Fang Yun let out an angry howl, a mixture of anger and shame. He had been bested by a youth in front of such a massive audience. The first prince's fear was allayed. With Fang Yun stopping Su Yu, he felt completely relieved. A show of hatred flashed in his eyes. The only person who had made him feel so wretched in his entire life was Su Yu. Ha ha! What can you do against me, the first prince? The first prince stood at the exit of the arena, turned his head, and coldly laughed. I'll not stop at killing the Duke of Xuanhuan. I will exterminate King Xian'er and the rest of your family. Su Yu's blood-red eyes were calm, his voice deep and hoarse. You think you can live past today? I told you, no one can save you, not even the heavens. Su Yu's words were composed, yet they pierced the soul of the first prince, and lingered in the air of the arena. Fang Yun let out an angry laugh. Die. Space. Time. Manipulation. The pupils in Su Yu's blood-red eyes flashed with previously unseen brilliance. Time froze. Fang Yun was furious, his palm slowly made its way towards Su Yu. The audience's dazed expressions gradually changed. The flow of air became slow and heavy. Though accurately speaking, everyone had not slowed down, it was simply Su Yu, who had entered a faster space-time. With the cleansing of 2 drops of red spirit serum, he could cause time around him to double in speed, even when he was in a heated battle. Whoosh! He stepped forward and sprinted toward the first prince. Rumble! Fang Yun struck with his palm but hit only air. He was lucky that he did not fall. What happened? Su Yu had vanished. Fang Yun noticed the movement behind him and his expression immediately changed. In that short moment, Su Yu had moved in front of the first prince. The first prince, still unaware, had that villainous smile on his face. He had only deciphered a blur, and suddenly another figure stood in front of him. A pair of blood-red eyes were but an inch away from him. At such a close distance, every breath was audible. Ah, you're a ghost. The first prince was severely frightened, his face turned white as a sheet. Whoosh! The first prince quickly felt for the jade pendant at his chest. If he crushed it, he could let out a blow equivalent to a peak of level 7. But his hand was quickly neutralized. No one can save you. Su Yu's cold eyes harbored limitless hatred. It was the first prince who had destroyed Su Yu's family. He had caused Xian'er to go into exile in a faraway place, unknown to Su Yu. The duke was executed, the inhabitants of the manor depressed and defeated, all because of the first prince. Stop. The fiery minister was furious. It did not matter if he killed anyone else, but to kill a member of the royal family in front of him, his reputation would surely be destroyed. Su Yu disregarded the words and clasped onto the first prince's neck with his palm. The first prince's eyes widened, his expression frightened. He felt a terror, unlike anything he had felt before. Su Yu, release me, I was wrong. The royal first prince was at the mercy of Su Yu. His heart was filled with regret. Framing the Duke of Xianyu had been the most unpardonable mistake of his life. Su Yu's blood-red eyes possessed no pity. He mercilessly shook his head, his voice hoarse and sad. It's too late, the Duke is dead. You shall pay with your life. No. The first prince let out a roar of injustice. Rip. At the next moment, Su Yu had ripped off the first prince's head, and held it in his hand. The crowd gasped, completely shocked. Su Yu had ripped off the first prince's head in front of the empire. The crowd was absorbed in the scene. Su Yu carried the head of the first prince and walked to the head of the Duke of Xianyu. He placed the bloody head of the first prince in front of the duke's. Whoosh! Su Yu knelt. His action was felt by every member of the crowd. He placed both hands on the ground and deeply kowtowed. This kowtow caused many hearts to tremble. It was as if time stopped at this moment, and the heavens wept alongside Su Yu. Father, I have come too late. The sad, trembling voice reverberated around the arena. Su Yu had entered the holy meet, not for fame or shock, not for prestige and honor, but to seek revenge for his benefactor. Countless people had respect for Su Yu. Even the high and mighty 12 inspectors were silent and respectful. The purple figure kneeling on the ground was imprinted in the minds of many. Countless years later, they would still remember the frighteningly talented youth who had appeared at the holy meet and defeated everyone in the empire with 9 straight victories, before abandoning all honor in order to kneel in front of his benefactor's corpse. This prayer would forever be in the hearts of many. Fang Yun was dazed for a moment, but his eyes regained a cold expression. Insolence. Murderer. Killing a member of the royal family is a crime that warrants death. Hag. Su Yu slowly lifted his head, and pitifully laughed. Father, you have seen me defeat everyone in the martial arts training institute in the past. Today, please continue to witness my fight to the death. His great revenge was over. If the people of the sanctuary did not want him alive, then he would kill. He would flip the sanctuary over. Kill. Su Yu suddenly stood up. Purple thunder flares enveloped his fists. His limitless killing intent pierced through the heavens and spread across the clouds. The Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. Chapter 62. Rumble. Su Yu was already dead inside. This battle could not hurt him. Each stroke of his was merciless and murderous. Diabolic Sword. Purple Star Thunderbolt. In terms of ability, Fang Yun was obviously superior to Su Yu. But Su Yu was not afraid of death. Fang Yun was unable to use fear and intimidation to his advantage as a result, and it greatly impacted his ability to defeat Su Yu quickly and efficiently. The expression on the fiery minister's face was grave. To think that an inspector would have such trouble with a candidate. He slowly rose to his feet and a horrifying aura surrounded him. The 12 inspectors' expression changed. The fiery minister was going to take care of Su Yu himself. Level 8 of the martial paths, the minister lived a terrifying and brutal existence. A powerful aura crashed in like waves, causing Su Yu's blood to curdle despite already being engaged in combat. A mere release of his aura brought about such terrifying result. Were he to truly strike Su Yu, there would be no possible defense. Just before the fiery minister prepared to strike, a light chuckle spread through the arena. Swoosh. The figure of a young man strode in from the entrance of the arena. He was dressed in a white robe, simple and clean. He had thin eyebrows and charismatic, star-like eyes. His overall appearance was gentle and handsome, with a muscular frame. At that moment, he had a slight smile as he surveyed his surroundings. The grave expression of the fiery minister changed after he noticed the young man. Step, step, step. The all-powerful fiery minister immediately stood up, visibly nervous. He fearfully walked towards the young man and kneeled in respect. I, the fiery minister, welcome holy disciple Qiu. The 12 inspectors' expressions changed drastically. Even Fang Yun shuddered. His eyes displayed a mixture of fear and respect. Fang Yun shoved Su Yu back as he frantically ran over to the other 12 inspectors in order to pay his respects. Everyone, minister and inspectors included, were in deep shock, not daring to breathe. Everyone in the arena was dead silent. The fiery minister, the leader of the 9 great ministers, as well as the 13 inspectors who rule over the empire's martial arts training institutes, were paying their respects to a youth. Furthermore, the youth acted as if this was natural. His expression was calm as he stood in front of them with his hands behind his back. Surveying the surroundings, he glanced over to the bloodied heads of the first prince and the Duke of Xianyu. He then raised his eyebrows and asked, "Speak. What is this all about?" This was the holy meet. Had it ever been so unorderly? Things had come to the point that an inspector was having a battle with a youth in the arena. The eyes of the fiery minister trembled slightly and a shred of fear welled up within him. He chose his words carefully. To reply, holy disciple Qiu, there was a murderer in the meet, and he severely injured the other contestants as well as killed a member of the royal family. We are in the midst of suppressing him. Is that the case? The youth, surname, Qiu, shifted his gaze to the 13 inspectors. Of the 13 inspectors, 12 were jittery and did not dare answer. The fiery minister was in charge of the inspectors. Their life and death depended on his whims. How could they expose his deeds? If the fiery minister was not appropriately punished, they would be in a lot of trouble. In reply to holy disciple Qiu, this is exactly the case. This person is cruel and merciless. I am in the midst of capturing him. Fang Yun quickly supplied. That was indeed the case. The youth Qiu looked coldly at Su Yu, then lifted his finger in preparation to end Su Yu's life. Swoosh. At this moment, a slender figure flew down in front of Su Yu. She was as petite and beautiful as a fairy. Within her lovely eyes was a boiling anger. Sir, please do not believe the words of those two. The fiery minister intended to allow his disciple to commit murder, completely disregarding the rules of the holy meat. Du Yuntian was attempting to kill Su Yu in front of the audience, but he could not match up to Su Yu's skill, and was wounded. The fiery minister became furious and continuously picked on Su Yu. As for the first prince, their dispute was the result of a personal grudge between him and Su Yu. Jia Jingyu mustered up her courage. She stood up for Su Yu when everyone else was afraid. Jia Jingyu spoke the truth. The fiery minister was frantic. He looked back in anger. Do not spout nonsense. So you are Su Yu. The youth Qiu dropped his finger and interrupted the fiery minister as if suddenly coming to a realization. Both the fiery minister and Fang Yun were surprised. Holy disciple Qiu knew of Su Yu's existence. Come here. Holy disciple Qiu motioned with his hands. 3 figures strode in from the entrance of the arena. It was the Grandmaster, Bai Qizhong, and Guard Chen. A murderous glare flashed in Su Yu's eyes. Bai Qizhong, Guard Chen, it's you guys. Indeed. Holy disciple Qiu stroked his chin. Everything was clear to him now. Glancing over at Su Yu, holy disciple Qiu gently nodded his head. Yes, since the first prince sent someone to assassinate you, he should, logically, be executed. You did a great job killing him. In fact, you saved me the trouble of doing it myself. The entire arena exploded in commotion at his words. The first prince had sent someone to assassinate a holy seal bearer. Did the first prince not learn from the former monarch's mistakes? His death was justified after committing such a crime. History had grown too far from the present. People had forgotten about the punishments at the hands of the sanctuary. As for the two of you, Bai Qizhong and Guard Chen, I will let Su Yu decide your fate. Your life and death depend on his whims. Holy disciple Qiu calmly glanced past Bai Qizhong and Guard Chen. As for you, Grandmaster, you were not only aware of the first prince's scheme, but you also aided him in his crime. Let your death be a lesson to all. Qiu flicked his fingers and a stream of terrifying vital energy pierced the air. The Grandmaster, a level 7 peak, did not even have the chance to hide. The Grandmaster dropped dead where he stood. Fear seeped into the hearts of many. Holy disciple Qiu had killed with the intent to teach a lesson, and he had achieved in spreading a potent warning to all. The assassination of a holy seal bearer had not happened in many years. Many had forgotten the lessons of the past, and they needed to be reminded through blood. Holy disciple Qiu swept his gaze to Du Yuntian, his killing intent apparent, disregarding the restrictions, killing people in front of others in the arena. You deserve death too. Crash. A finger of vital energy ended Du Yuntian's life. Even though Su Yu committed the offense of severely wounding his opponent, it was Du Yuntian who struck first, and thus I shall not pursue the matter. Qiu was impartial. Finally, he shot his gaze to the fiery minister and Fang Yun. Fiery minister, the Holy King let you govern the affairs of the Fenglan Empire. He put his trust in you. But you manipulated the masses and hid facts for personal gain. You completely disregarded the instructions of the Holy King, disrupted the holy meat, and impacted the reputation of the sanctuary. Do you plead guilty? The fiery minister's body quivered, his heart felt as if it was dropped into a frozen chamber. A hatred for Jia Jingyu welled in his heart. If not for her, there would be no one in the Fenglan Empire who would dare to stand up to him. He would have been able to regain control of this situation. HMPH. Unrepentant. Holy disciple Qiu was incredibly perceptive. He detected the hatred in the fiery minister's heart in a matter of seconds. The sanctuary does not need a failure like you. Qiu's gaze was sharp and his voice was stern. I, with the title Holy Disciple, announce that, from this day onwards, you will be relieved of your duties as minister of the sanctuary and be expelled from the sanctuary. Furthermore, your actions were improper and evil. I will destroy your cultivation levels so you cannot harm people. The youth of surname Qiu was merciless and left no time for the fiery minister to react. He immediately struck with a strong vital energy, severing the fiery minister's internal energy source. The fiery minister let out a howl of pain. His internal blood energy channel was severed, his vital energy was no longer able to circulate. He could no longer use any abilities and was destined to become an ordinary old man. As for you, Qiu shot a cold gaze to Fang Yun, you abused your influence and fabricated lies in an attempt to deceive the sanctuary. You should be executed. Ah, no. Fang Yun was immensely regretful. But, in front of the level 9 of Qiu Changjian, he could not even fight back. Fang Yun was killed on the spot with a mere finger. The arena gasped. Who exactly was this holy disciple Qiu? He was merciless and decisive. Since he had appeared he had already killed 3 people and destroyed the cultivation level of the fiery minister. It was truly gruesome, there had never been a scene so harsh before in history. But, undoubtedly, the reputation of the sanctuary had raised in the hearts of many once again. There was still justice in the sanctuary. People like the fiery minister and Fang Yun were but black sheep. After he executed Fang Yun, holy disciple Qiu scanned the 10 people in the preparation area. Or, rather, the 8 left. Su Yu had been stripped of his right to participate and Du Yuntian had been killed, and thus neither were considered holy talents. You people are this generation of the holy talents. Okay, follow me, accept the test. Holy disciple Qiu calmly ordered the group, bringing them into a secret chamber. Chia Jingyu was included among them. The group hurried over. Su Yu. Walking past Su Yu, Chia Jingyu paused. She gently bit her lip. Su Yu had lost his right to enter the sanctuary, it was difficult for her to see him in the future. After the massacre, Su Yu gradually slipped out of his mudarious haze. The blood-red color in his eyes receded like the tide. As he looked at Chia Jingyu's face, a warmth overcame him. In the face of crisis, only Chia Jingyu had come forward to defend him. I'm fine. Make sure to train hard once you enter the sanctuary. Su Yu knew that this would perhaps be the final meeting between Chia Jingyu and himself. One would become a holy talent while the other would wander the mortal world, the gap between them would get larger and larger. Chia Jingyu could not bear to part with Su Yu. She did not blink as she gazed at Su Yu. If Su Yu had told her to stay, she would not have refused. Go. Su Yu smiled, his heart in agony. Are you not asking me to stay? Chia Jingyu's eyes dulled, her heart felt empty. At that moment, the people in the front hurried her along. She took a long look at Su Yu, then turned to leave. With her leaving, Su Yu felt a sudden loneliness. He was all alone once again. The Duke was dead. Xuanhuan had gone to a faraway place. His only friend, Chia Jingyu, was entering the sanctuary to further her training. He was the only one left, entirely alone. With that realization, Su Yu lowered his body and searched for a container to take the Duke's head away in. However, a pair of legs entered his field of vision. He lifted his head. It was the 3rd prince. His eyes were full of respect, and he wore a mysterious smile. Lin Xiao was standing by his side, his eyes were also full of respect. He laughed. Su Yu, let me give you a present. Lin Xiao clapped his hands and at the entrance, under the support of 2 servants, a middle-aged man with a slender physique and weakened expression made his way into the arena. Su Yu only caught a glimpse but felt as though he was shocked by lightning. He froze where he stood. Father. Su Yu rubbed his eyes in disbelief. It was the Duke of Xianyu, albeit weakened and haggard. How had Su Yu mistaken him for another? Whose head was at his feet? Lin Xiao grimaced as he picked up the head and carefully peeled off a layer of skin to reveal the face of a stranger. He was a person the 3rd prince had saved in the past, adept in the art of disguise. He volunteered to be sacrificed for the 3rd prince. Originally, the plan was for him to die for the 3rd prince when he was captured. The guards and warden of the jail are loyal to 3rd prince and thus it would not be difficult for us to make the switch when necessary. When it became clear that your victory was uncertain, the 3rd prince decided to transfer the plan to save his own life to the Duke of Xianyu. He was deeply moved by your act of gratitude and was willing to give up his wild card. You should thank him. Without him, the Duke of Xianyu would truly be dead. The Divine Nine Dragon Cauldron. Chapter 63. The expression on Su Yu's face faltered as he paid his deep respects to the third prince. The third prince had an empathetic look on his face. He sighed. You, Su Yu, could give up your life in gratitude. I, as someone who was going to die anyway, should do something to help you. If you want to thank someone, thank the person in disguise. He was the one who gave up his life. Su Yu paid a deep, heartfelt respect to the person in the disguise. Without him, the Duke of Xianyu would never have lived past today. Father, Su Yu was reunited with the Duke of Xianyu. As he noticed the Duke's missing arm, Su Yu's heart turned sour. That limb had been the Duke's sacrifice for him and Xiana. The Duke of Xianyu had tears in his eyes. He caressed Su Yu's forehead. It's me who let you down, the Duke shocked on his words. Su Yu shook his head. His cold gaze moving over to Bai Qizhong and Guard Chen, who were both trying to hide. Father, allow me to deal with these two first. How could Su Yu forget the horrors Bai Qizhong had put the Duke of Xianyu through? How could he forget the merciless pursuit undertaken by Bai Qizhong and Guard Chen? Bai Qizhong opened his mouth, but was mercilessly interrupted by Su Yu. Now that it has come to this, do you think I'll really forgive you? Even though they were both only following orders, they had done their best to pursue Su Yu. Their actions were inexcusable. Guard Chen mourned for his life. He did not want to die, so he clenched his jaw and with a grunt severed his internal blood energy channel, destroying his cultivation level. Su Yu, Guard Chen knelt. I have a wife, parents, and my child. Please spare my life. I have destroyed my own cultivation level and will never again cause any harm to the mortal world anymore. Also, I'll confess, it was the Duke of Qin that sent me to kill you, and Miss Jiang is being imprisoned in the manor of the Duke of Qin. Su Yu had been unaware of Guard Chen's personal life. He had only assumed that he was an accomplice of the first prince. To think that the Duke of Qin had a part to play in the assassination of a holy seal bearer. The Duke of Qin, he truly is a poisonous tumor. Su Yu walked past Guard Chen without dealing a killing blow. He coldly stared at Bai Qizhong. What about you? Bai Qizhong had a look of unjust. He had spent much effort to raise his cultivation level to the peak of level 6. How could he destroy his cultivation level now? Su Yu, I'll give you a manual of a saint-level technique, spare me. He was cautious of Qiu Changjian, but did not give much regard to Su Yu's abilities. Forget it, I guess I shall strike and destroy your cultivation level. Su Yu interrupted him and boldly stepped forward. He did not believe that Bai Qizhong owned a saint-level technique, and regarded his pleas as a means of delaying the inevitable. Bai Qizhong laughed angrily. In the past, he had pursued Su Yu. Now that Su Yu was backed by Qiu Changjian, he was arrogant. Does he dare talk about destroying my cultivation level? With a sparkle in his eyes, Bai Qizhong smirked. What happens if you cannot beat me? I'll spare you, Su Yu replied. Bai Qizhong was overjoyed. He let out a long laugh. Ha ha, great. If you can beat me, I shall give you the saint-level technique with both hands. You have no chance of winning, Su Yu calmly said. He took a step forward and struck decisively. Purple Star Thunderbolt. Rumble. Purple thunder flares burned harshly. Su Yu's expression was cold and unfeeling. Bai Qizhong tapped on the soft sword on his waist and the sword emanated a cold, soft glow. Song of the Breeze Sword. Clash. Su Yu's fists and Bai Qizhong's sword explosively collided. Thud, thud, thud. Bai Qizhong's mouth became numb, his expression shocked. He looked down at the soft sword he was holding and squinted his eyes. What are those flames? He only observed that, during the short time his soft sword came into contact with Su Yu's fists, it showed some signs of melting. Su Yu subtly nodded his head. The Purple Star Thunderbolt was able to severely wound people of level 6 upper tier but was not enough to defeat people at level 6 peak. Su Yu took a deep breath as his mind entered a wonderful rhythm. In the eyes of an outsider, Su Yu became a portrait of himself, separate from the mortal realm. His purple robe flowed and his black hair danced. His handsome face was picturesque. Su Yu did not emulate the typical displays of the heavenly finger, but instead lightly pushed his palm up in front of him. Rumble. Ah. Something interesting began. The area around Bai Kuzhong displayed painting-like qualities as if Su Yu was dragging Bai Kuzhong into another realm. Su Yu's ordinary palm sent Bai Kuzhong flying back 10 meters. Crash. Bai Kuzhong opened his mouth to spew a mouthful of blood as a devastating pain spread within his organs. His chest carried the imprint of a palm. Several of his ribs were broken. Bai Kuzhong was incredibly shocked. It was the same holy decree he had seen before. Why was it so much more powerful? Su Yu gradually awakened from the trance, his enlightenment now much more profound. After his souls had fused, Su Yu had faintly discovered that blindly following examples of the holy decree was foolhardy. Emulation was ultimately inferior. Any form of emulation, no matter how successful, would ultimately just be similar to the original act. It would never surpass any limitations. Thus, Su Yu had boldly tried to incorporate his own techniques when he was in the realm of the holy decree, no longer emulating anyone. The effect was incredible. The technique's power had grown several times, exceeding Su Yu's expectations. In his relaxed state, Su Yu coldly glared at the defeated Bai Kuzhong. In the past, Bai Kuzhong had been an unsurpassable martial artist in his eyes. Today, Bai Kuzhong had been defeated by his palm. Su Yu did not feel a large sense of accomplishment. He had seen the terrifying abilities of a level 9 in Qiu Changjian. He no longer considered level 6 peak to be as incredible as he once did. His only regret was that he had no fate within the sanctuary. Without this opportunity, it would be hard for him to learn more mysterious techniques, or find the chance to spar with even more powerful talents. In the secret chamber, Qiu Changjian candidly sat down. 8 people stood in line in front of him. Out of all of you, according to your rankings in the sparring, which of you is the strongest? Qiu Changjian asked directly. The 8 people looked at each other. The sparring had not come to a conclusion due to the incident with Su Yu, and thus a ranking had not been established. As if he recognized this fact, Qiu Changjian let out a long sigh. All right then, each of you show me your most powerful technique. Sir, according to the rules, all 8 of us have earned the right to enter the sanctuary. What's the point in seeing who is stronger than the other? Chia Jingyu asked. Good question. Qiu Changjian observed Chia Jingyu with a little admiration. The fiery minister terrorized everyone, only she had the guts to say the truth. He could see that, while she seemed weak on the outside, she was strong on the inside. Her question was straight to the point and showed her intelligence. While all of you have the right to enter the sanctuary, not all of you hold the right to become a holy disciple, Qiu Changjian answered. Holy disciple, the same as Qiu Changjian. The sanctuary is divided into 2 sections, the heavenly sanctuary and the mortal sanctuary. The mortal sanctuary collects talents from all over the world and is governed by the 9 great ministers. They are responsible for the teaching of the cultivation techniques of the talents. From the first generation onward, there have been thousands of students within the mortal sanctuary. This is the sanctuary that most people know of. As for the heavenly sanctuary, we only collect rare geniuses that are 1 in a million. They become disciples of the Holy King and gain the title of Holy Disciple. They receive the best resources. Their status is higher than the disciples in the mortal sanctuary. They hold the right to punish disciples in the mortal sanctuary should they feel it is justified. Understand? The scene of Qiu Changjian punishing the fiery minister was still fresh in the mind of the 8 people. Even the esteemed fiery minister's fate was dictated by the whims of a disciple from the heavenly sanctuary. The heavenly sanctuary was the true sanctuary. Only by entering the heavenly sanctuary could they consider themselves truly above regular mortals. Zheng Yilan's eyes exuded passion. Sir, how many people in each generation can enter the heavenly sanctuary? How many? Qiu Changjian was sarcastic. You should have asked how many generations typically pass before anyone actually enters the heavenly sanctuary. What? 1 person every few generations. The criteria for entry into the heavenly sanctuary was harsh beyond imagination. All right, Let's start. Show me your most powerful technique, Qiu Changjian said. The 4 demon students of the Martial Arts Training Institute went first. Each displayed their strengths. Qiu Changjian remained impassive, his star-like eyes calm. He remained silent. He remained silent until Donglin's turn. Ordinarily, you would not be granted entry into the mortal sanctuary, Qiu Changjian commented. Donglin nearly vomited blood. In the Empire, he was ranked amongst the top 4 students and was highly regarded. But in the mortal sanctuary, he was below average. Without a doubt, Donglin was not fated to enter the heavenly sanctuary, he was considered average in the mortal sanctuary. After Donglin, Chong Nanfei displayed his abilities. The eyes of Qiu Changjian remained calm. You're all right. Probably average in the mortal sanctuary. Chong Nanfei grimaced. To be average even amongst the mortal sanctuary would mean that he was not fated to enter the heavenly sanctuary. Qia Jingyu clenched her jaw. Among the 8 contenders, her cultivation level was the lowest, and she was afraid that she would not impress Qiu Changjian. After some thought, Qia Jingyu recalled the holy decree that Su Yu had taught her and decided to give it a try. Qia Jingyu took a breath, then immersed herself in a peaceful place. She conjured a vision of a day beneath the moon and under pear tree flowers, quiet and harmonious. The mental image provided warmth, as if she lied in Su Yu's soft embrace. These thoughts in mind, Qia Jingyu used the heavenly finger. Creak. Her finger sliced the air and a unique rhythm was set. It made her feel like a celestial being from a painting. Qiu Changjian's star-like eyes sparkled, his face showed the first traces of a smile. Not bad. The holy decree is precise and refined, harboring the massive energy of the universe. The rhythm envelops miles of lakes and mountains, pretty and wondrous. It seems that this trip was not wasted, and I have found a person worthy of the heavenly sanctuary. What is your name? Qiu Changjian was smiling, his tone friendly. Qia Jingyu. She was confused. She could enter the heavenly sanctuary. All right, Junior Qia, you have a day to prepare and take care of your personal life in the mortal realm. Tomorrow you shall follow me to the heavenly sanctuary. We have one more member. Qiu Changjian was visibly joyful. What? All 8 people were shocked. Qia Jingyu was entering the heavenly sanctuary. All because Qia Jingyu had displayed the holy decree. The only one left, Zheng Yilan, was visibly excited. He cupped his hands and laughed. Congratulations Jingyu, looks like we shall be spending much time together in the heavenly sanctuary. I hope that we can help each other out in the future. He was elated. To think that the holy decree was what set apart the heavenly sanctuary and the mortal sanctuary. He, Zheng Yilan, had also gained insight into the holy decree and had the right to enter the heavenly sanctuary. This meant that he could spend more time with Qia Jingyu in the future. He thought about the heavenly sanctuary, far away and mysterious, foreign to everyone. Qia Jingyu, being a lady, would naturally be uneasy. Qia Jingyu and him were from the same region and would naturally, as strangers in this new world, cling to each other and help each other when needed. Amidst the constant interaction, feelings might develop and Qia Jingyu might fall for him. They could then get married. At this thought, Zheng Yilan felt comfort and fiery emotions. Su Yu, so what if you have defeated me? Qia Jingyu will ultimately be my woman. You can admire me from the mortal world. Qia Jingyu creased her brows lightly and let out a sigh. Qiu Changjian had a surprised look, naturally expectant. So you have gained insight into the holy decree too. Quick, show us. Zheng Yilan was arrogant, but he put on a show of humility as he gravely displayed his holy decree. A cluster of light encircled his body. He unleashed 10 fists, each complicated by the light, making it hard to distinguish illusion from reality. He finished his display feeling satisfied. Zheng Yilan lifted his head to look at Qiu Changjian, his expression suddenly frozen. Qiu Changjian's expectant face had vanished, his star-like eyes filled with disappointment, ordinary, below average in the mortal sanctuary. This comment hit Zheng Yilan like lightning. He could not recover. But I have also gained insight into the holy decree. Qia Jingyu could enter the heavenly sanctuary, why can I only qualify for the mortal sanctuary? He stuttered. Qiu Changjian's eyes grew dull. The holy decree is split into different levels: basic, medium, and advanced. Junior Chia, holy decree was a medium-level holy decree. As long as we cultivate it, there are high hopes that she could match up to the holy king. You cannot compare to her. There were levels of the holy decree. Zheng Yilin was completely shocked. His heart felt as if it had shattered, dropped from heaven into hell. He bitterly moaned, "It turns out that the holy decree I have gained insight into is only of a basic level." Hearing this, Qiu Changjian scolded Zheng Yilin without mercy. "Basic level. You overestimate your holy decree. Your holy decree has not even scratched the surface of the basic level. Anyone who trains for a year or two in the mortal sanctuary can achieve your level of holy decree." What? Not even the surface of the basic level? Zheng Yilin felt as though he was splashed with a basin of ice water. He shivered at the thought. Qiu Changjian waved his hand. "All right, all of you go back for now. Junior Chia will enter the heavenly sanctuary with me tomorrow. The rest of you shall await instructions. Within 10 days there would be a person from the mortal sanctuary to take you away." After speaking, Qiu Changjian stood up. "Senior Qiu, may I recommend a person? He is sure to satisfy you." Chia Jingyu flashed a wide smile, as beautiful as summer flowers. Qiu Changjian raised his eyebrows. "Oh, who is this person so highly recommended by Junior Chia?" The Divine Nine Dragon Cauldron. Chapter 64. Senior Qiu, you have seen him before. He is the champion of the holy meat, Su Yu. Chia Jingyu had a sparkle in her eyes. She was excited. Him. Qiu Changjian raised his brows even higher. Qiu Changjian was going by the book. Even though he had not pursued the matter, Su Yu did indeed disrupt the holy meat. The holy meat represented the sanctuary, and its honor would not be sullied. He acknowledged that the fiery minister's decision to strip Su Yu's right to participate was indeed effective as a warning to everybody else. It had reminded everybody that the order of the holy meat was not to be disrupted, no matter your potential and abilities. "Why do you recommend him?" Qiu Changjian asked patiently. He did not want to embarrass Chia Jingyu in front of everyone. In his heart, Qiu Changjian did not intend to give Su Yu a chance. But Chia Jingyu only said one sentence in response, a sentence which completely changed his mind. "My holy decree was given to me by Su Yu." Chia Jingyu was blushing like a red lily after a rain, shy and gentle. "Take me to Su Yu." Immediately, Qiu Changjian abruptly stood, exiting the secret chamber with big strides. Qiu Changjian was utterly shocked. Chia Jingyu's holy decree was of medium level. Just what level of holy decree did Su Yu, who had taught the holy decree to Chia Jingyu, achieve? Qiu Changjian had nearly buried Su Yu in the dirt and he was secretly regretting his actions. At the arena, Su Yu had destroyed Bai Qizhong's cultivation level and energy source with a single strike from his palm. Bai Qizhong had been devastated. His cultivation level was completely destroyed. He could, at most, be a martial arts teacher in the future, teaching martial arts theories to beginning martial artists. But he was still alive. Perhaps he should count his blessings. As the right-hand man of the first prince, he was bound to be the target of the third prince's punishment. Su Yu, in destroying his cultivation level, had indirectly saved his life. His thoughts and feelings were conflicted, but Bai Qizhong did not dare protest any further. He was lucky to have survived the royal battle for the crown. "Thank you, Mr. Su, for not taking my life. This is the saint-level technique that the first prince gave to me to learn, as well as my understanding of it over the years. I lost the bet, and now this is yours." Bai Qizhong delivered the manual, trying not to stutter. A manual for a saint-level technique was an extraordinary item. To take it out in public was inviting people to take his life. Su Yu raised his brows, to think that there was really a saint-level technique. After Bai Qizhong dragged his heavily injured body away, Su Yu flipped open the manual. As he analyzed the notes Bai Qizhong had made over the years, Su Yu started to understand the saint-level technique. Floating light shadow, a saint-level technique, it is considered the best of the movement techniques. There are a total of 3 stages. At stage 1 top class, you move like a shadow, present in a separate realm. At stage 2 top class, you can stride over water. At stage 3 top class, you can fly, ride light, and clutch shadows. Su Yu was shocked. It was indeed a saint-level technique. And it was related to movement techniques. His cloud shadow trick was only a basic level technique, its potential was limited. It no longer proved useful to Su Yu. This saint-level technique was given to Su Yu at just the right time. Cultivating floating light shadow to stage 1 top class allowed him to rival the speed of a level 6 peak. Cultivating it to stage 2 top class would allow him to be as light as a feather and enable him to walk on water. He could do a short burst of flight as long as there was a point of support around him. Cultivating it to stage 3 top class would allow him to fly. Thump, thump. Su Yu's heart beat wildly, especially at the thought of stage 3 top class. Flight. This is a feat only doable by the fabled celestial beings. At least in this world, only the Holy King has achieved such a degree of movement techniques. Unknowingly, Su Yu immersed himself in the technique as he attempted to gain insight into it. He immediately accelerated time. After the cleansing by the 2 drops of red liquid, Su Yu's manipulation of time was far more effective than it previously had been. While he was active he had been able to accelerate time by 5, but now he could speed it up 10 times. When he had been calm, he had been able to accelerate time 30 times faster than normal. Now, he was capable of speeding it up 50 times. Every minute Su Yu put into learning the technique was 50 minutes for another person, nearly an hour. As he studied, Qiu Changjian and Qia Jingyu approached. The third prince had a respectful expression as he attempted to awaken Su Yu. Qiu Changjian attempted to break Su Yu's trance with a look of approval. Su Yu was learning a technique on the spot after a heated battle. This person did not waste any time when it came to cultivating techniques. Su Yu would not awaken for a while yet. Qiu Changjian sat down and asked the third prince and Qia Jingyu about Su Yu's past. Upon learning that Su Yu's journey to the capital was for the Duke of Xianyu's sake, Qiu Changjian was deeply touched. To sacrifice his life in gratitude. Great. After understanding the entire situation, the impression Qiu Changjian had of Su Yu completely flipped. He now had an extremely positive opinion of Su Yu. After half an hour, Su Yu gradually woke up. He wore a confused expression, with a slight wrinkle in his brows. He had many questions on his mind. Manuel held tightly in his hand. Su Yu was doubtful that it was indeed a saint-level technique. Not because it was too hard to comprehend, but rather, it was too simple. He had been learning it for the past half an hour, equivalent to 25 hours in the outside world. It had only been a day, but Su Yu had already achieved stage 2 lower class. Even with Bai Qizhong's comments and the cleansing of his soul, it should not have been this easy. He had only reached stage 1 lower class of the Purple Star Thunderbolt after multiple days of brainstorming, and that was also a saint-level technique. But, in just one day, he had already achieved stage 2 lower class of the Floating Light Shadow. How could the difference in difficulty between understanding the 2 saint-level techniques be this huge? Whoosh! A gust of wind hit Su Yu's face while he was still in deep thought. Su Yu immediately stifled his confusion, subconsciously striking out with his palm. At this point, he no longer needed to recall representations of the holy decree in use in order to enter the mental rhythm required. From the point of view of an outsider, Su Yu was like a man in a painting, separate from the mortal realm. His palm reached out and threatened to drag people into the dissociated realm as well, where they would face his strikes. Rumble. What had mildly shocked Su Yu was that his palm disappeared as soon as he struck with his holy decree. In surprise he looked up, only to see a face full of admiration. Holy disciple Qiu. Su Yu retracted his palm. He did not understand the situation. Qiu Changjian displayed no killing intent. Why did he strike? At the holy disciple's side, Qia Jingyu was visibly excited. She seemed to have gained an understanding of the situation, as she recalled Su Yu's palm just now. Su Yu's holy decree seemed to have evolved. It was now more complex and smoother, more natural and harmonious. His holy decree had been clumsy, with traces of others' interpretations. Today, he had stripped off everything mortal surrounding his holy decree, returning the move to its most natural state. He had achieved true synchronization with nature. Advanced level holy decree. Great. Qiu Changjian was utterly shocked. Su Yu was completely clueless. He didn't understand Qiu Changjian. Junior Su, you have a day to prepare. Tomorrow, you and Junior Chia will enter the heavenly sanctuary with me. Qiu Changjian was relieved as he walked off heartily. Chia Jingyu smiled as innocently as a white lotus in fresh rain. She gave a detailed account of the events that had led her there to Su Yu. Only you and I may enter the heavenly sanctuary. Su Yu was shocked. He had thought that he was not fated to enter the sanctuary. He had never thought that Chia Jingyu would recommend him and allow him to enter the heavenly sanctuary, which was of an even higher tier than the regular sanctuary. Thank you, Jingyu. Su Yu was filled with gratitude. Both twists of Su Yu's fate had been due to the efforts of Chia Jingyu. Chia Jingyu smiled, her clear eyes flashing with light. You imparted your holy decree to me. Now, I can return the favor. We're even. Let's help each other in the future. Su Yu was smiling. He looked at Chia Jingyu, his heart filled with gratitude. If Xianna was the love of his life, Chia Jingyu was his lucky star. For Xianna, Su Yu felt only love, but for Jingyu, Su Yu was overwhelmed by gratitude. Chia Jingyu blushed as prettily as a sunset as Su Yu stared at her with his star-like eyes. Together, they were as beautiful as the setting sun and fresh snow. They were celestial. Chia Lingxuan was confused. He walked towards the side of the Duke of Xianyu and sighed. My Duke, let me have this son-in-law, lest you have to worry in the future. The relieved expression on the Duke of Xianyu's face froze slightly. He glanced over at the back of Su Yu, feeling deeply apologetic and worried. His eyes gradually lit up and, shaking his head, he said, In my life, I will only acknowledge one son-in-law, and that is Su Yu. Nobody should dare come in between him and Xianna. Have you ever thought of how powerful those are in Fenguang Valley? If they found out that Xianna had a fiancé, could you guarantee Su Yu's safety? Chia Lingxuan sighed, looking at the back of Su Yu, full of pity. If Xianna had stayed by the side of the Duke of Xianyu, she would have been happy with Su Yu, forever husband and wife, without anybody to disturb them. But Xianna's appearance in the Fenguang Valley had changed everything. Considering Xianna's status in the Fenguang Valley, Su Yu could never be with her. Those people in the Fenguang Valley would try everything to break off the engagement. Of all the schemes they may attempt to break the engagement, one was obvious: they would attempt to assassinate Su Yu. With the Fenguang Valley's power and arrogance, Su Yu was but an ant in their eyes. His death would not be remembered. Why not let Su Yu enter the heavenly sanctuary and allow him to break off the engagement before any attempt on his life could be made? This would solve their problems. It would resolve Su Yu's impending crisis, it would benefit Chia Jingyu, and it would curb the worry of the Duke of Xianyu. 3 birds with 1 stone. Wait. Let's wait. I don't think Su Yu will give in to anyone or nation. Give him some time. Su Yu will prove to those in Fenguang Valley that he is worthy of Xianna. The Duke of Xianyu was expectant and could not bear to cancel the engagement. Su Yu had traveled great distances for him, he was even willing to give up his life. How could he cancel his engagement with Xianna? Even though Xianna's mother had passed on, she had had much influence in the Fenguang Valley when she was alive. As such, thanks to her mother's legacy, Xianna had been treated like a treasure during her time at the Fenguang Valley. There was no telling how the people of the valley would react to finding out about her engagement. Originally, the Duke of Xianyu's plan was to let Senior Qin send both Su Yu and Xianna to Fenguang Valley. Senior Qin held a letter prepared by the Duke of Xianyu for someone to receive in the Fenguang Valley. The letter stated that the engagement may be broken only if Su Yu's life could be guaranteed, so that he may live in Fenguang Valley. But the situation had changed drastically. The Duke of Xianyu could no longer bring himself to cancel the engagement. How could the Duke be willing to let a benevolent son-in-law such as Su Yu down? Thus, he had changed his mind. He would acknowledge only Su Yu as his son-in-law in this life. Even if the Fenguang Valley were to interfere, he would never change his mind. But his conviction was not enough to preserve the engagement. Su Yu had to become stronger, strong enough that the Fenguang Valley could not belittle him. They had to accept him. Only then could he truly be together with Xiana. Otherwise, a mere engagement would not be able to hold the two together. Chia Lingxuan shook his head and deeply sighed. You think that the people in Fenguang Valley would give Su Yu time? That they would wait for Su Yu to grow? The Duke of Xianyu was startled as he processed this. Lin Xiao suddenly walked in, whispering a report to the third prince. HMPH. This old fox's ears are pretty good. The third prince's gaze was cold. He thought for a moment, then strode towards Su Yu. Brother Su, the Duke of Qin has heard of the defeat of the first prince and has fled the capital with his family. I am bringing guards in pursuit. Do you want to come? The Duke of Qin had secretly ordered Guard Chen to assassinate the Holy Seal bearer. This was an unpardonable crime. The third prince had finally, legitimately gotten rid of the first prince's ardent follower, with the added effect of making his death a warning to others. Now that the first and second princes had lost their lives, their followers no longer had a leader. The third prince had stepped out to kill all followers of his deceased brothers as a warning to the world. Those who do not follow the rules will end up like the Duke of Qin. The Duke of Qin, Su Yu's gaze turned cold. In the past, the Duke of Qin had forced him to give up his girlfriend, Jiang Zuqing. Qin Feng had ambushed him multiple times. The Duke of Qin had sent Guard Chen in pursuit of him. If Su Yu had not become more powerful, he would have been done in by the Duke of Qin long ago. In the past, Su Yu had been cautious and shrewd. He knew of a saying, however, if you do not kill a snake with your first blow, expect it to bite back. The Divine Nine-Dragon Cauldron. Chapter 65. Father, you should go rest in the manor of the third prince. Allow me to go deal with the Duke of Qin before coming back to discuss things with you. Su Yu bade goodbye to the Duke of Xianyu. The Duke of Xianyu and Chia Lingxuan's family went over to the manor of the third prince. They were not disturbed, as the manor was heavily guarded. Su Yu and the third prince were hot in pursuit of the Duke of Qin. At the outskirts of the capital, an envoy reporting to the third prince, the carriage of the Duke of Qin is escaping in the direction of the Fenguang Empire. The third prince immediately ordered the soldiers to ready themselves for pursuit. Wait a moment. Su Yu stood on his horse as he gazed far away. His crystalline pupils were worked to their limits. After his cleansing, his eyes could see everything up to 5 miles. 3 more miles than he had previously been able to see. Within a radius of 5 miles, small moments such as waving grass were all within his view. The envoy going towards the Fenguang Empire is just a decoy. Those carriages are steered by many juniors from the Qin family. The Duke of Qin and his dependents are escaping towards the northwest, 3 miles away. They are steering a bull cart, disguised as farmers. Su Yu's gaze was harsh. The third prince showed no hesitation. Northwest. Pursue them quickly. The envoy was shocked, deep in disbelief. How could the eyes of a mortal observe a situation as far as 3 miles away? Furthermore, Su Yu was even able to identify what the other party was wearing. They were in disbelief. Nonetheless, the soldiers were fully convinced. Not an hour later, the guards in pursuit did indeed stop a bull cart, but there were only elderly and sick people left in the cart. The Duke of Qin, Qin Feng, and other important members of the family had boarded a large boat in the river. The boat was traveling downstream and could travel 1,000 miles in a day. Without ample preparation, it would be difficult for the guards to continue their pursuit. That old thief Qin is crafty, indeed. He prepared an escape route for himself ages ago. The third prince punched his own thigh, visibly frustrated. The large boat had already left the shore and was a good 300 meters away from the shore. The water in the river was rapid and deep beyond imagination, making it hard for them to wade through it. From 300 meters away, even the third prince could see the Duke of Qin and Qin Feng as they stood at the helm of the boat. While they looked haggard, they wore a relaxed look on their faces as they laughed at the third prince who could nothing about their escape. Su Yu wore a cold glare. He would never forget the smiles of the father and son. Spread my orders, block the river flowing past the prefecture. We will continue our pursuit through the night. The third prince was furious. He could not establish his dominance without killing the Duke of Qin. It would prove detrimental to his ascent to the throne. Su Yu shook his head. It's useless. They will definitely get to shore before we're able to catch up. They probably have a carriage waiting for them already, ready to escort them to safety. Why hadn't the third prince thought of this? The Duke of Qin was a shrewd man. His escape plan must have been planned very thoroughly. But the third prince was really not satisfied with just letting him escape so easily. Their thinking that their troubles are solved just by boarding a boat is very laughable indeed. Su Yu slowly stood up atop his horse. The third prince did not understand Su Yu. Brother Su, what do you mean? We capture him on the boat, of course. Su Yu shot a cold stare towards the boat. The third prince was shocked. Unless, Brother Su, do you have a plan for us to cross the river? The waves of the river are rapid and the water is deep. Using a small boat will be impossible. Only by using a large boat can we continue chasing the Duke of Qin. Hey, there is no need for a plan. I alone will be enough. Su Yu let out a long whistle before he gently stepped on the horse's head, flying towards the river. Brother Su, return quickly. The third prince was shocked. The waters were treacherous. If Su Yu fell into the river and was not adept at swimming, he would lose his life. But what the third prince witnessed caused his pupils to contract. At the moment Su Yu was about to plunge into the river, he tapped with his toes and stepped across the surface of the water. He was walking on the water by tapping his toes on the raging river. Thud, thud, thud. The river was rapid, its waves were furious. Su Yu's figure was agile, like an autumn swallow. Everyone could see a purple figure as it floated above the river like a ball of light. This is the rumored walking on water skill. Can this be done by a mortal? The thousands of guards were all shocked. A glow flashed in within the third prince's eyes. Walking on water, could this be the secret manual from the royal palace, the floating light shadow technique? Thinking back to the technique that Bai Qizhong had secretly passed to Su Yu, as well as how Su Yu had immediately tried to learn it, the shock on the third prince's face grew deeper. He let out a bitter smile. This royal treasure has not been understood by anyone in 100 years, but you managed to do it in just an hour. It looks like the technique has always been waiting for you. The purple light was walking on water. It was magical and beautiful as if a figure of a purple-robed deity. Everyone on the large boat was shocked. Both the expressions of the Duke of Qin and Qin Feng changed from ease to terror. Protect us, bowman. But Su Yu's body was weightless. He dodged the attacks with ease and, once he was within 30 feet, he tapped the tips of his toes together, which conjured a small wave. Su Yu turned into a purple shadow, spiraling as he landed on the deck. Clink, clank. The surrounding guards pulled out their swords. Su Yu stood with his hands behind his back. His purple robe flowed behind him. He conjured multiple small swords with his deep black eyes. Ah! In the blink of an eye, 2 rows of guards dropped dead. The only people left were Qin Feng and the Duke of Qin. Su Yu looked back at the captain in the cabin. Go back. Or die. Creak. The large boat turned, making its way back to the shore. The expression on the Duke of Qin's face turned bitter. He knew that he was cornered and had no chance of survival. He stared hard at Su Yu, his eyeballs bulging and making him look ferocious. The Duke of Qin furiously clenched his jaw. Su Yu, my Qin family has perished by your hand. We were supposed to help the first prince ascend to the throne. We were supposed to be prosperous and have many offspring. Why must you eradicate us? As he listened to the sounds of the raging river, Suyu wore a leisurely expression. Don't blame me for driving you to the edge. If you need to blame something, blame the fact that you attempted to corner me in the past. I could tolerate your stealing my girlfriend, for I was incompetent, and I could tolerate your attempts to ambush me, as I had no status, not influence. But sending someone to assassinate me. You pushed me to the brink, I couldn't overlook that. Every sentence was like a strike to a gong. Suyu's words caused the Duke of Kan's heart to tremble. Who would have thought that the first prince's massive influence would be destroyed in an instant, due to this small fry who had been so insignificant in the past? Who would have thought that the Duke of Qin would have his entire family exterminated due to his son's insults towards a commoner's lust for a woman? If he could turn back time, the Duke of Qin would definitely reprimand his sons. But it was too late. Qin Feng's heart was filled with sadness and great grievances. Su Yu now held the fate of his family within his hands. Su Yu. Qin Feng's eyes turned red. You think you have won? He bellowed. With a clap of his hand, two guards supporting a lady at the front of the boat stood at attention. The lady's arms were tied to her back and a large rock was tied to her ankles. If she was pushed off the boat, she would definitely sink to the bottom of the river and drown. The lady was about 14 years of age and her appearance shockingly beautiful, like a fox deity from the ancient scrolls. Her beauty was unforgettable. Beneath her beauty, the lady was haggard. Her bright eyes were filled with sadness. Gazing at the raging river, she laughed in self-mockery, hinting that death would be a release from her misery. Ever since she had come to the capital she had been imprisoned, unable to step out of her room. From that moment she had realized that, in the face of power and status, she was but a bargaining chip, a tool, a pawn. She had once naively thought that, by marrying into a noble family, she would be showered with luxury and privilege. But today, she had received a rude awakening. Hearing the commotion, she glanced to the side and Su Yu's purple figure entered her field of vision. Her maiden heart skipped a beat. Jiang Zuqing showed a pained expression, her lips forming a smile of self-mockery. She lightly retracted her gaze as a bitter tear fell on her cheek. As she recalled the past she shared with Su Yu, Jiang Zuqing let out a pathetic laugh. For luxury and status, she had broken the feelings between Su Yu and herself. She had thought that breaking up had been the mature, adult thing to do. Now, she finally understood that it had been a childish and naive thing to do. She had given up on true love and chosen riches. How ignorant and willful must one be to make such a decision? She could not face Su Yu. In fact, in the last moments of her life, he was the last person she wished to see amid her guilt and regret. Su Yu, you will never have what I, Qin Feng, cannot have. Push her down. Qin Feng laughed maniacally, as he felt high from the feeling of revenge. He let out a huge laugh. Plosh. Jiang Zuqing was pushed into the raging river. Su Yu was calm. His purple figure flew. It floated on light and clutched onto shadows, gracefully cutting across the surface of the water. He pulled Jiang Zuqing, who had already sunken deep into the water, up. Whoosh. They both returned to the boat. Su Yu was still dry, but Jiang Zuqing was drenched in the icy cold water of the river. It was the beginning of winter and the water of the river was cold. Jiang Zuqing's petite frame was shivering. Whoosh. He removed his purple robe and covered Jiang Zuqing before he released her from her restraints. No longer looking at her, Su Yu flew towards the cabin and took care of the remaining guards. In the end, the only ones left were Qin Feng and the Duke of Qin. Su Yu, do whatever you want with me. Kill me or disfigure me, do as you please. The Duke of Qin knew that he was a dead man, and had accepted his fate. Su Yu shook his head and glanced at the third prince on the shore, and he smiled. There's no need. There will naturally be someone ready to deal with you. The third prince had helped Su Yu on many occasions, and Su Yu had promised that, if he had obtained the crown, he would help the third prince ascend to the throne. Today, handing the Duke of Qin over to the third prince would greatly help his ascent to the throne. Suddenly, Suyu felt a tightness at his waist. A pair of jade-like hands hugged Suyu from behind. A trembling, petite, ice-cold and drenched body was pressed fully against his back. A silent cry came from behind him, as if a helpless person was clutching at her life's final straw. She was hugging Suyu tightly, refusing to let go. What is the meaning of this? Lightly raising his brow, Suyu resisted the temptation to use force to separate himself from Jiang Zuqing. I'm cold. Jiang Zuqing's tone was pitiful as she stubbornly hugged Suyu. After some consideration, Suyu sighed silently. He gathered his energy and released a stream of vital energy into Jiang Zuqing's body, forcing the cold away. Until they reached the shore, Jiang Zuqing hugged onto Suyu's arm, refusing to let go. The third prince carefully observed Jiang Zuqing. If he remembered correctly, she was the lady who had abandoned Suyu in the past for Qin Feng. The rumors said that she was once the person who held Suyu's heart. Now she wanted to return to his side. The third prince shook his head. Besides the fact that Suyu, a righteous man, would never turn his back on Qin Xiana, the fact of the matter was that Jiang Zuqing no longer deserved a man such as Suyu. As a martial artist, Jiang Zuqing could not catch up to him in terms of cultivation level. They were not destined to be together. Fetch a horse for her. The third prince ordered. Jiang Zuqing buried her head deep in Suyu's chest and hugged his arm tightly. She vehemently shook her head. There's no need. I am sticking with Suyu. Suyu creased his brows. He was disgusted. After all this time, you think that simply clinging to me would make me accept you again? As he began to push her away, Jiang Zuqing's voice spread to his ear. I know I cannot face you. I am not seeking your forgiveness, and will definitely not cling on to you. But, can you allow me to be by your side for a little while longer? As young, former lovers. Young, former lovers. Deep in Suyu's soul came a slight throb. After the complete fusion of Suyu's souls, minute feelings hidden deep in Suyu's souls were gradually accepted by Suyu. Softening his heart, Suyu sighed as he got on his horse. He pulled Jiang Zuqing up into his embrace. End of the chapter. The Divine Nine Dragon will be read in 5 chapters for every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday and Sunday. Please leave this sound novel and press subscribe, follow, and the bell so you don't miss any new clips as well. See you.